Wednesday, May the 14th. Lake levels just under 915, hadn't changed very much since last week. Water temperature this morning, it was around 65 degrees. It's actually cooled down about 5 or 6 degrees from this weekend. We've had a bunch of rain, the cold front come in. Last week we had record highs, and this week we may get close to record lows. But it hadn't slowed the fishing down. The fishing's been phenomenal. I don't know if I've ever seen so many fish up shallow in so many different areas of the lake. It seems like, all them fish were backed out, kind of waiting for it to get warm, and when it got up to about 68 to 70 degrees, it seemed like they just flocked to the banks. Now, you can go out and catch 70 to 100 fish a day right now, if you stay with a lot of the finesse stuff. A lot of them are short fish, but there's quite a few keepers in the bunch. There's a lot of 1.5 to 2.25 pound fish. Seems like most of the tournaments, to get a check, it's really been piled up in the 11 to 12 pound range. You get fortunate to get a couple decent fish, 4 to 5 pound fish, and get up to 14 to 16 pounds. You got a chance of winning. But like I say, it's just phenomenal. Anytime you can go out there and catch that many fish. If you've got any kids or anybody you want to get interested in fishing, now is the time to get them out there. Now, like I say, with the water temperature cooling down, I'll kind of start off with the topwater bite. It was really starting to get fired up last weekend, and it would have continued to get better if the water temperature hadn't cooled down. But we've had several days of rain, and you can catch them on top. But you don't get near the bites like what you do on the finesse baits. But if you're going to fish the topwater, I've been fishing is I've been fishing a jointed redfin. Cotton Cordell makes it. Czar Spook will work. And it doesn't really seem to matter, what color baits I've been throwing. Another one that I like to throw is it's a Vixen. It's more like the size of a Super Spook. And the one I got tied on here, it's an old Storm Thunderstick. It's just like a jointed redfin. It works real good. Now these baits will stay right up on top, just give them a real slow retrieve. And what it is just like a wake bait. And I'm fishing it on main lake secondary points around submerged timber. But as far as for catching the numbers of fish, right now the deal is to go small finesse baits. Whether it be like a Cinco cut in half, rigged up Ned rig style, shaky heads, little French fries on a split shot. You can take like Strike King, Baby Rage craws, Zoom Critter craws, anything that looks like a crawdad or it's got crawdad colors. The fish are just gorging on real small crawdads, and every time you catch one, you'll see them as you're reeling them in. They're spitting crawdads out, and they're still feeding on a few shad. But with that water temperature dropping, it seemed like the shad spawns kind of slowed down. It was getting ready to get started. When that water gets up to 70, them shad will start to spawn. That makes the topwater bite a little better. But where it's cooled back off, I'm not seeing the shad like I was earlier last week. Since this weekend, I'm seeing less and less shad. But, that'll happen again next week, and the topwater bite will get a little bit better. But I'm rigging these finesse worms up. I'm throwing, like a Zoom trick worm. Another Zoom worm I'm throwing is a swamp crawler. Seems like any of the skinny baits, as far as like on the Ned rig, I'm taking a Strike King Zero or a Z-Man. The ones that got the real stretchy elastic. What you do is you just cut them in half, put them on a real small jig head, super glue them. That works real well. Most of these fish are in the spawning areas, from the main lake points. It seems like the bite's better inside the points and in the pockets. As long as you've got the boat set in about 20 foot where you can make a long cast to the bank, the slower you can fish these, the better, and the lighter the weights you can get by with, the better. Now we've had quite a bit of wind. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll try to position the boat so that I'm casting with the wind. If if the wind's coming at your boat at like a 90-degree angle and you cast straight out, wind puts a big old bow in your line, it's real hard to feel the bite. So you've got to get your boat positioned so that the wind's not putting a big bow in it. Most of the stuff I'm fishing on 6 or 8 pound line. Now, I can catch some fish on heavier stuff, on bait caster gear, on a Carolina rig, but I'm getting a lot more bites on the smaller baits and the lighter line. It seems like the fish are holding on really good to a bait that they can't hardly feel. Like a football jig, or like the pig rig with a rage craw on it, or a zoom speed craw. Seems like the fish pick it up, and if you don't get the hook set right away, they spit it back out. But the smaller finesse stuff, they're really holding on. And I use several different shaky heads. This is a little football head with a screw lock on it, or you can use a brown shaky head with a screw lock. What I use a lot of times is, because I've always got so many of them, where we swim a grub a lot, I use the same head that I use for a single tail grub, and I just Texas rig the worm on there. Colors that are working good is like watermelon candy, green pumpkin, watermelon red, green pumpkin red. Anything that's got the color of the crawdads. And if you catch a fish that's spitting crawdads, look at the colors that are in them. You'll see a lot of olive green, a little bit of red in it. French fries will work, whether you rig it up on a split shot or a miniature Carolina rig. Senkos, you can either Texas rig them up on a Ned rig, or split shot them as well. And you can still catch fish, on a Senko and a fluke back in the pockets. There's still several fish bedding, but it seems like the sides of the pockets going in is where the majority of my bites are coming from. Now I think we'll start to see some bigger fish in the next week or two. I think there's a Bass Pro's got the KVD Big Bass Splash or something going on this weekend. So lake's probably going to be busy. There'll be a lot of guys out there. They have, I think every other hour, they have a weigh-in, pays the top 10 fish. And then I think the biggest bass of the weekend wins a boat. But like I say, fishing's, even with this cold and the rain, it hasn't slowed it down a bunch. Looks like the weather's going to straighten up, possibly Saturday, and it'll start getting warm again. And like I say, it's the time to get out there and do some fishing. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.